Hey, it's Leifer on Your Marks Wrestling, and I'm here with an Impact Redemption review for April 22nd. I'm a day late reviewing this. It happens. So the first thing I noted about this is that Don Callis was on commentary for this, and if any of you watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, you know that that's good news. So I actually thought that throughout the show, Don Callis and Josh Matthews had a nice dynamic. Callis was not quite as dickish as he is on New Japan Pro Wrestling, but he's still quite good at it. So I really enjoyed that. We start the show with a match between Drago and Aerostar, both of Lucha Underground fame. So Impact is really kind of sharing talent with Lucha Underground, and throughout the show they were promoting Lucha Underground, so I'm guessing they made some type of deal following the Lucha versus Impact show. That's cool. Lots of talent on those teams, so that's on those rosters, so that's great. I wrote that Drago left the ring at a really fast speed. So normally you see guys go over the top rope or through the ropes out to the floor in kind of a delicate, I don't want to say delicate way. They go pretty violently. Drago did it at 100 miles an hour. It was kind of scary looking, but it also looked super safe the way he landed. So that was cool. I have Aerostar hits a bombita, which is basically just kind of a backwards cannonball onto Drago. Looked cool. There's a really neat looking pinning combination by Drago at one point. It was like just a super intricate series of moves. Looked like he was going to do a crossface, but then he kind of swings him over, and it was really cool. And it was just for a pin, so it was just a roll up, but it just looked really cool the way it was set up. I like that at one point. I think it was Drago was picking up Aerostar, or vice versa. I'm not sure which one it was. And Josh Matthews basically asked the question, why would he pick him up? Why doesn't he keep him on the ground, keep attacking him? And Callis gives a commentary. He says, well, most lucha moves require that both athletes be moving at the time, so you want to pick up your opponent as quickly as possible and get them moving so you can get maximum impact. I thought that was just a clever move, a clever commentary. I just noticed my face is super red. That's weird. Okay. There was a lot of issues with the ropes during the show, and I'm kind of keeping track of them here. Aerostar almost falls off on a springboard, but kind of saves. He misses the move, but he lands on his feet, and he kind of does this whole, like, I'm not falling today thing. I thought that was pretty good. Then he hits a big springboard codebreaker for the win. Josh Matthews, then we get Matthews and Callis, and Matthews throws to a tag team package, but instead you see him talking to Matt Sydal about his match tonight. Sydal saying he's ready to go at it alone, which is fine. Then we do see a bit of the tag team build-up. We'd already seen most of the video package, but they added a little bit at the end where they talked about the King. I'm not sure if that's Conan or not, but they're talking about the King. And then it sounds like Conan's been taken by someone. So now LAX is going into this match not knowing where their manager/leader is. So we get a match between Eli Drake and Scott Steiner versus LAX. I wrote that I love the dead man drop by Ortiz. So basically, instead of a splash where he puts his arms out, he just basically kind of does like a dolphin move and just lands on him. I don't know why. It's a stupid move, but I like it. There's a... Yeah, I made a note of this. There's a top rope Frankensteiner by Scott Steiner. That's impressive. A guy who's 50 years old pulling a top rope Frankensteiner. I don't care that it didn't look perfect. It was pretty good, though. But that's just cool. We get... Eli Drake hits a beautiful, beautiful springboard moonsault. So while everybody else was struggling with the ropes, he wasn't. He hit that move perfectly. Then LAX hit quite a few tandem moves. A bit of the story was LAX good at tag team stuff. Eli Drake and Scott Steiner, lone wolves kind of thing. LAX have Drake set up for their finisher, but instead of jumping on Drake, Santana jumps onto Steiner, who was on the outside of the ring. Steiner had been kind of antagonizing him throughout the match. This causes a little bit of distraction. Drake rakes the eyes of Ortiz and hits him with a gravy train and gets the win. So now we have new tag team champions. Scott Steiner is one of the tag team champions for Impact Wrestling. That's kind of cool. We have a promo of Pentagon Jr. where he speaks almost exclusively Spanish, but he's got really good intensity. I actually really like this promo despite not knowing anything that he really said. And then we get a 6-man match, and I don't know if this was the match of the night, but it sure had a lot of stuff going on, so I'm going to write a lot of notes. I'm going to read a lot of notes, excuse me. So it was Trevor Lee versus Desmond Xavier versus Taji Ishimori. There's also Fantasma, or El Hilo del Fantasma, versus DJZ versus Brian Cage. So Brian Cage is kind of one of these things is not like the others type of deal in this match. But it was fun. So this is Lucha Rules, where if someone is thrown out of the ring, you don't need to tag yourself in, but only 2 people can be in the ring at a time. So kind of the running story at the beginning is Cage not getting into the match. Everybody else is. Trevor Lee kind of dominates for a little while, and then he starts antagonizing Cage. You wonder why. Cage finally does come in, and he really runs wild. He at one point he attempts a moonsault from the second rope corner. He slips, but then he gets back up and he hits it perfectly. Looks great. DJ Z hit a really cool move where he basically kind of launched himself out of the ring, caught Trevor Lee, who was on the apron, for a DDT, but they also both landed into Brian Cage, and I forget who else who was on the outside. It was just cool. I think it was Ishimori now that I think about it. At one point, Desmond Xavier jumps into a drill claw position, but manages to escape when Cage is kicked. Cage then puts Xavier on his shoulders, i.e. for a Samoan drop. And then he catches Fantasma, who's actually probably the second biggest guy in this match. He catches Fantasma, who was trying to do a crossbody, and he holds both guys up, and he basically does a Samoan drop / fall-away slam. It looked really cool. I think it could have looked even cooler if it was a smaller guy than Fantasma, but I guess it's impressive that he does Fantasma that way. Cage and Lee do this cool twisting. You know how you see the crossbody where they kind of hit and fall? Well, they did a crossbody where they hit and twist and fall, and it just looked really neat. Look at my hands. Look at this movement. Then there's a... Xavier hits his kind of backflip kick thing. It looks cool. There are a bunch of crazy moves. I wish I couldn't write them down quickly enough, but everybody kind of hit a big move. Eventually, though, Cage hits a drill claw on Xavier and gets the win. So Cage was doing little man moves in a match with a bunch of little men, just showing that he could do that, but he also did crazy power moves. He's beaten Lashley a couple times. They're pushing Cage, even though... And this was a cool way to get him involved in the show without putting him in the main event. So I thought it was cool. We have Mackenzie backstage talking to Ali. It's kind of echoey. They always do that on the live shows. It's always super echoey. Ali says that she's not a paper champion. A lot of people doubt her. And then she says that the only person that Braxton Sutter cares about is Braxton, which is fine. He's been kind of showing that he'll fall in love with any woman that that can serve a purpose for him. So then we get a match between Taya Valkyrie and Kiera Hogan. I always screw up that name. It is not the best match. It is pretty rough. Taya starts by disrespecting Kiera. Kiera gets a lot of offense in. During the match, though, the most important thing that happened during this match is that Tessa Blanchard shows up on commentary. She kind of repeats herself a lot, but she's basically saying, I come from a legendary family, I'm a great wrestler, I'm better than anyone in Impact, and it worked fine. She was good. She was mean to Josh Matthews, which was perfect. I think she's great. I've been hoping that WWE signed her, but it makes sense that Impact gets her. They just increased their talent by quite a bit in the women's division already. So that's great. So the match continues, and it's Kiara's getting tons of offense in, which is surprising because Taya is clearly the bigger star out of the two. But eventually Taya hits a Road to Valhalla. Kind of misses it the first time. It's weird because it's not that hard a move to hit from the looks of things, but she hits it eventually, gets the win. This match was by far the worst match on the card. It served a purpose outside of the ring, but inside the ring, it was pretty hard to watch. They just had no chemistry. It was kind of rough. We have Mackenzie Mitchell in the back with Petey Williams, who says that nothing of real consequence, to be honest with you. And then he gets interrupted by Scott Steiner, who says just a whole lot of crazy things. Says, like, Petey Williams made the most love to his wife when he looked like Scott Steiner. Like, it made no sense at all. But Petey kind of looks at him and goes like, man, that guy's crazy, and I love him. Something like that. It was just dumb, but whatever. So we have Petey Williams versus Matt Sydal. I did not write that many notes for this, and it's kind of sad because it was a super sound technical match. But these guys are X Division guys, and you expect a little more out of them. Williams kind of targets Sydal's back, does a sharpshooter, does a single leg Boston Crab, does a few like a backbreaker at one point. Sydal tries a shooting star press, but gets the knees. Then Petey Williams hits the Canadian Destroyer, but Sydal falls to the outside of the ring, or finds himself on the outside of the ring. He's managed to get there. Williams teases a top rope destroyer. Sydal misses a shooting star press, but then Williams is going for the Canadian Destroyer again, and Sydal kind of sneaks between the legs and grabs his arms and does this weird little kind of package driver thing, and just kind of gets a nice tight squeeze on him and gets a pin on him. It was an interesting ending to a kind of uninteresting match. I actually kind of like that ending. No one could see that as the finish. No one would have ever predicted that as the finish. We have Mackenzie Mitchell again in the back with Moose, Eddie Edwards, and Tommy Dreamer. Moose talks about how like every day on the football field was a war or something like that. He's basically making it sound like football is more dangerous than wrestling, which as a wrestler I don't think you should do that. And then Dreamer talks really weirdly about Unity. At least he doesn't go Unity, but whatever. That's a WWE complaint. But yeah, Dreamer is like, young and old and black and white. We're all fighting together. It just didn't fit the match. Really, it was very strange. I'm going to go see Dreamer in May. So I hope he doesn't cut that kind of promo because it made no sense. So this is a hardcore match. It's OVE versus Moose, Dreamer, and Edwards. I actually really enjoyed this match. I don't usually like hardcore matches much, but I thought this was kind of, I don't want to say tastefully done, but it didn't cross the line until the end. The end was kind of neat. So we start the match. Jake Chris tries to do a tope con hilo. He's caught by Moose, who does an apron powerbomb. Cool. It looked brutal. Weapons come in early. Moose tries a tope con hilo where I forget who avoids it, but he ends up landing directly on a ladder. There's a kind of cutter off of the shoulder. So two guys are essentially in the electric chair position, and one of the guys hits a cutter on the other. I thought that was neat. That's from OVE. It's Jake Chris hits that move. And it also landed in chairs for near fall. What happened then? There's there's a Boston knee party by Edwards onto one of the Chris's, I think, not Jake, but the other one, Dave Chris, into tacks, which looked pretty painful. Moose then tries to splash Dave Chris, who's laid out on a table, but then Jake Chris jumps in for a cutter at the same time, so it's basically like a splash into a cutter. Lots of tables break. It was cool. Callahan hits his finisher on Eddie Edwards. Forget what it's called, but it's like a cool inverted shoulder breaker thing. Callahan goes to get a bat, and Dreamer goes to get a bat as well, but his bat is wrapped in barbed wire. They kind of hit bats together, and he disarms Callahan. It's fine. Eventually, though, Callahan low blows Dreamer and rolls him up for the pin. So they get the win, but then Eddie Edwards goes nuts. And this was intense. So Edwards attacks Callahan, grabs the bat that's wrapped in razor wire. I guess it's not barbed wire, it's razor wire. And he kind of rubs it against Callahan's face, which cuts him up. He tapes Callahan to the ropes so that Callahan can't escape, kicks him in the balls. Then he takes Callahan's blood, like rubs his hands on Callahan's face and puts it on his own face, which was creepy. He starts hitting anybody. The ref's trying to stop him. He hits the ref. He knocks down Tommy Dreamer, who's telling him he's crossing a line. Eventually, his wife jumps into the ring to try to stop him, and she kind of touches him from the back. He turns around and hits her over the head with the kendo stick, and she's knocked out. And that's what finally kind of makes him stop. It was kind of interesting because they get the paramedics / doctors to run in, and they're all looking after Edwards' wife, who got hit in the head by a kendo stick. But taped to the ropes just 5 feet away is a very bloodied, dead-looking Sami Callihan. So it was kind of a very strange preference thing. You'd think they would split their services a little bit, but no. Callihan got no attention. It was all Edwards' wife. And they took her out on a stretcher or something like that. Then we get a promo from Phoenix. He speaks a little bit more English than his brother. Again, lots of passion. Not the best promo, but is all right. And then we have Mackenzie Mitchell in the back with Austin Aries, who cuts a very face promo for him, but a good one at that. So he basically kind of says that he talks up his opponents, and he says it's going to be a challenge, and he says, he's being chosen to carry things for the company, so he thinks that's important. I liked it a lot. And then we have the Ali versus Su Yung match. Ali dominates early. Braxton Sutter interferes at one point, gives Su Yung an advantage. She puts on a weird glove, but she doesn't manage to do anything to Ali. Ali hits a code breaker to avoid the glove. Ali hits a bunch of moves, but misses her best super kick ever. Su Yung hits a half-hanging pedigree at one point. They don't call it that, but that's essentially what it was, a draping pedigree. Ali hits the best super kick ever, but Braxton distracts the ref, so she doesn't get the pin from that. Ali slaps him off the apron. Young goes for the panic switch, but Ali rolls her up for the win. At the end, Sutter grabs a mic and he tells Young that he knows this is bad, but he can make it better. He drops down to a knee to propose or something along those lines, and Young looks like she likes it, but then she red mists him in the face, and then she gives him a mandible claw with that glove that she put on. And then we'll get to the final match, which is Aries versus Pentagon versus Phoenix. It's a good match. Aries avoids the double super kick that kind of ended the last match for him, sent him outside while the others pinned each other. He does a last chancery, but it gets broken up by Phoenix, who almost does a coast-to-coast to break it up. It was neat. Aries with a thrown Hurricane Rana to the outside, which is not necessarily a move that he uses all that much. Phoenix really struggles with the ropes at one point, like slips off of them two or three times, but eventually still hits this beautiful twisting tope, so it was kind of cool. Phoenix hits a spinning muscle buster on Pentagon for a near fall. Pentagon lands his Pentagon driver on Phoenix, but is broken up by Aries. Aries hits a 450 on both, and it looks like Pentagon gets a lot of knees on that one. It looked pretty painful, but he doesn't get the pin. Pentagon Jr. hits a combo gory special and pile driver on the two guys, which was neat because he's not the biggest guy, but he landed a move on two guys that are roughly his size. Pentagon Jr. then wrenches Aries' arm, so they're saying like he must have broken it or something along those lines. And then he hits the Pentagon driver on Aries and gets the pin. So I think everybody going into this kind of expected Aries to win. So then now you see Pentagon winning, so he'll be part of the Impact show, at least for a little while. Overall, can't complain about this. This was better than most pay-per-views, I would say, on WWE. This was kind of like it would certainly be in the top 20 percentile. I thought it was really solid. Good job, Impact. Certainly better than Bound for Glory, which I saw live. Yeah, they're trending in a positive direction. Adding the Lucha guys on this is really good. They need to look at those ropes. There must be something going on with those ropes. Maybe retape them or something like that, because everyone was slipping. But other than that, really, really good. I would give it a number grade, 8.5 out of 10. I liked it that much. I actually thought it was really good, and I think people should kind of, if they have a chance, go out of their way and try to watch this thing. I thought it was pretty fun. All right, thanks for watching.